Where guidelines come to a tremendous fault is it takes away the creativity and ingenuity of the provider, the clinician. It strips them of finding novel solutions to complex problems. You and I, like as clinicians, if you're a clinician listening to this, that is what I think guidelines do. So when I created HRT University, I was guided by this idea, and I don't know who coined this necessarily. I first heard it, I think it was Alex Hormozy, who I think I've mentioned before, right? He's an amazing entrepreneur and makes great content around business. But he had this kind of saying of like, principles are greater than protocols, right? Or principles over protocols. And we can kind of apply that. Think of protocols as the guidelines, right? Check, check, check. Step 1, step 2, step 3. If A, then B. If B, then C. You're just moving through an algorithm, essentially. If you want to be really great at something, like if you want to master something and be 110% effective as humanly possible, understanding principles is so much more effective than understanding protocols. What's a good way to describe that? I've given this analogy before, but let's say I'm talking to my now 5-year-old daughter. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, is she 5? Gosh, I can't even remember my own kids' ages. She just turned 5. Anyways, 6. She just turned 6. Cleo. We had her 6th birthday on December the 13th. I do remember that. Okay, so we had her birthday party. It was amazing. It was so fun. She's so cute right now. And she says hilarious stuff. And she's at that age where she's starting to try to connect the dots a lot more. But if I asked her, Cleo, what is the meaning of the sun setting tonight? That would be a really, really difficult question for her to answer, right? She might say something like, well, it means the sun goes away. True. But like, what is the meaning of like, what would happen? What does happen when the sun goes away? Well, then it's nighttime. Okay, sure. But then what? Like, what does a sunset mean? What does it lead to? What is its ultimate purpose? Like, she's just going to be like, dude, stop talking to me. I don't have time for that. I've got to go watch Gabby's Dollhouse or something. So she understands very basic, almost like protocols, right? There's like a kind of an algorithm to it. Yeah, the sun sets and then it goes dark and then it rises and then it's daytime. But she doesn't understand the principles behind that. She doesn't understand gravitational force. She doesn't understand time and space. I mean, she does understand some of that stuff, but not nearly in the depths that she would really be able to articulate what is the meaning of a sunset and what is the purpose and what does that lead to, right? That's a principles thing at the end of the day. Like that's like really deep sciencey stuff. I don't even know some of that. I mean, like we could get really deep if we want to. We can get into like physics and quantum physics and all that stuff. So does she know it? Yeah, but does she understand it? Not really. She knows what a sunset is, but she doesn't understand the sunset. Does that make sense? So you can know a lot of stuff about medicine. I remember a microbiology class. It was a really tough class. It was one of my most favorite classes of all times. I loved that class. The lab with it was incredible. It was just a lot of rote memorization, quite a lot of it. I mean, I had flashcards. I might make hundreds of flashcards for an exam, right? And I'm just learning every single, bacteria that is known to man and what is it? What does it do? And is it aerobic or anaerobic? And blah, 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 blah. So I knew it. I knew that stuff backwards and forwards. But to understand it, to understand why streptococcus causes strep throat, that's a different level of conceptualization of open-minded, right? You have to open your mind up to what is a streptococcus bacteria and like why does it reside in certain areas and why does it not reside in other areas, and what does it do to the organism when it's in a different type of area versus when it's in the right type of area, right? So that's kind of the same thing with guidelines, right? Guidelines allow people to know something, but it doesn't mean that they'll understand it. It doesn't mean that they'll comprehend it. And so people get stuck when all of a sudden they're faced with a difficult patient, which, by the way, is, look, let's be honest, it's a lot more often than not. That's kind of how medicine is. I mean, if you want to just do the whole like treat strep throat antibiotics thing, fine, but even that can get a little hairy. But when it comes to hormones, there's a lot more complexity that comes with that, whether you like it or not. That is just hormone replacement therapy. It is not for the weak. It requires a level of mastery. It begs you to learn and continue to learn and continue to understand. And I think if you are relying only on guidelines and protocols, it's going to limit your ability to do the greatest work possible. I'm not saying you can't help people. Of course you can. But it's going to limit you. It just is. And it makes a big difference because it's wild when I'm talking to a clinician, and I've worked with hundreds of clinicians at this point, like literally for over the past 5 years, I'm probably close to 1,000 or more, right? I've talked to many clinicians, and I can hear, I can even see or read when they're basing something off of a clinical guideline versus a principle. Let me give you a really good example. I had an amazing colleague and a HRT University student, so to speak. I mean, she's a full-fledged nurse practitioner. She's amazing. She asked a really good question about, she had this female patient. She's in her 40s, and, she's taking progesterone. She's in perimenopause. She's taking progesterone. Excuse me. She's taking progesterone. She's taking a little bit of testosterone. I think she was taking some thyroid. She's doing pretty good, but still struggling with some anxiety and not sleeping so good, and all of a sudden developing some like breast tenderness and things of that nature. And she said, what I decided to do was just increase her progesterone. And I'm just curious if that was the right thing to do. I haven't followed up with this patient yet, so I don't know how she's doing, but I'm just curious, like, am I going in the right direction here? And it was like, wow, I knew right then and there that she got it. She went through the HRT University course. She understood some principles. She understood what hormone is it that does which thing, right? She understood that progesterone is calming to the central nervous system. She understood that progesterone helps, kind of combat a lot of the estrogenic properties that females experience, especially during times like perimenopause when estradiol and estrogen at large is kind of up and down and roller coastery, right? She understood that progesterone is, of course, going to be beneficial for sleep if it helps relax the central nervous system and hits on GABA, right? I could tell she understood that because the direction she went in was exactly appropriate. It wasn't just like she was just, flinging things and hoping something sticks. She literally understood the mission. She understood what she was doing. Now, she just wanted a little bit of reassurance. Fair enough. Like, that's what we're here for. But I loved it because I was so like, wow, that was perfect. Because this could have gone a lot of different ways. Like if she was looking at a particular guideline, it could have said, well, you gave her 200 milligrams of progesterone at bedtime and like, that's it. That's as far as that goes. We don't know what else to tell you. Maybe try some Ambien if she's not sleeping well, or some Xanax if she's anxious, or an SSRI if she's feeling depressed. Maybe we add some estradiol in because well, she has peri, and like there's so many different things that could have spun off from that based on a guideline. Or nothing would have happened because the guidelines ended there. Do you see what I'm getting at? So relying on guidelines, I think, ends up hurting more than it does helping in a lot of circumstances. I really mean that. And I think that's just true because, again, I've met a lot of patients who have been, let's just say, started, quote unquote, on hormone replacement therapy by other providers, especially if they're coming from a conventional medicine setting. And, these providers give them 50 milligrams of progesterone and then, just a whiff of estradiol. And they kind of brush their hands and say, well, that's what the guidelines say. And, HRT is really dangerous, even though we all know that's not true. And you can only be on this for a little while and blah, blah, blah. That has definitely not made that person better. In fact, it oftentimes makes things worse, right? So I literally had a patient like this. Imagine she was, I don't know, 55, something odd, female, totally in menopause at this point. She's not sleeping. Vagina's dry as a bone. Like, she's miserable. She's just really uncomfortable. She goes and sees her OB-GYN, and the patient is actually who is the one pushing for, hey, HRT, please. I read some articles. I have some friends who are on it. I want to be on it. It sounds great. OB-GYN says, no, I don't think it's a good idea. And, finally, I think OB-GYN ends up digging into some NAMS guideline and whatever, and kind of pulls up some like, well, here's what the guidelines say. And ironically, this is what's so ironic. The guidelines had slightly better dosing protocol than what this poor woman was actually given, because of course in medicine, the smallest dose possible, right? Lowest dose possible is the best method to treat. Well, that's not true when it comes to hormone replacement therapy. We want the maximal dose. Maximal effective dose, not minimal effective dose. I have a whole podcast on that, by the way, somewhere back in this year's timeline. But so, of course, the OB-GYN, God love her, she's trying to do her best, I guess. And she gives this lady, whiffs of progesterone and estradiol. And it's enough to essentially cause a suppression to some degree of those hormones, which she makes very little, if none of at this point. And so now she's more anxious. She's feeling more uncomfortable. Vaginal dryness did improve a little bit because she was applying estradiol to her vagina. But like, again, it was just like barely good enough. Like, yeah, it helped a little bit. Not like, oh my God, I'm cured. So by the time she comes to me, she's kind of confused. Like, am I thinking this is real? Like, does HRT actually work? Because I'm on it and like it's not doing anything for me, but my friends swear by it. What's going on? And so again, I'm faulting guidelines and I don't think guidelines don't have like, they're not people, or they don't have personalities, but I'm faulting the guidelines in the sense of, if you give someone what is something that looks like the easy button, they'll oftentimes use it and not understand, right, that it's not the best way to go about treating patients.